Hey there, strangers. It's time for another 2 p.m. PC Twitch stream. I'm your host, Strange Bro Jim, and today we're going to be getting back into Pega, even though you guys can't really you're not really seeing it right at this moment in time. Let me update it. There we go. Oh yeah. Um. Today we're going to be covering the module completing work on time. For this hour of studying. For those of you that might not be aware, um, I'm working towards trying to get my certification finally. Um, I wasn't able to get it during my initial training in Pega. Um, the certification that I did attempt, I missed like 6 questions away from the minimum. So I was kind of kicking myself a little bit on that, but at the same time, there was a lot of questions in the certification exam that was dealing with 7.0, and that was never covered during my training. For those of you that are watching me right at this moment in time, if you've ever gone through 7.0 or know 7.0, especially you on YouTube, if you're watching this, please let me know, like, hey, this word obviously got changed. It used to be this, because at least one, um, even if like they changed it up to a new keyword in the later versions, I can at least go, okay, if someone hasn't studied any of the later versions or again, maybe they've done Pega for like years, but they don't know that the wording had changed over the years. It allows for me to understand what exactly they're talking about as well. So not only would I uh, will help me for the certification, but it will also help me out there in the real world, just talking with the senior developers that are out there. So please, let me know if there's ever a word that you're like, wait, that used to be this, because that would help me out. Okay, um, so please do so. Um, we got about and we have 2 topics according to this, and it says that it's 25 minutes long, so it'll probably take the full hour. We have service level agreements, additional tasks for setting goals and deadlines, and then of course we have the module quiz. Um, we'll see how far we can go on this, but that's going to be the content for today, for this hour. Um, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have a playlist of my journey through the system architect um, mission to eventually get to the system architect certification. That's the goal for myself. I'm not a trainer, so don't feel like hey, um, what are you talking about? Why don't you know these answers? I'm not an official trainer. Okay, so I'm not even I don't even have any association with Pega either. So don't feel like I'm you know uh, I'm kind of doing this for um, uh, my own guide on trying to get all these concepts solidified in my mind so that I can get that certification. Okay. Um, Pega doesn't know about it. Pega doesn't really even know about me per se. you know, um, I'm still trying to contact them and say, hey, you have some problems with, some of the things that I'm dealing with here. This needs to be changed. But um, I think I've only gotten like one reply back so far concerning one of my um, one of my conversation pieces so far. So, I mean, what can I do, right? Um, I don't have a direct line to them, so I can't really go to like their CEO and go, "Hey, guess what? Here's my latest video. Here's how, I viewed it. You know, please approach your, teams associated with this particular topic and get them to work on it or something like that." I don't know. Not my place. So, um, okay, so we are going to be working on service level agreements. So let's get started on that, shall we? So a service level agreement SLA is something that is reused quite a bit in certifications. So it is definitely a keyword. It is reused. It's you're gonna want to know what it's all about. So establishes a work completion deadline. Organizations often establish service level agreements to enforce on-time performance. These obligations range from informal response time promises to negotiated contracts. Um, okay, so it goes into video, but we're just gonna go ahead and read the video transcript here. Now, you know, there'll be, most likely, um, and there will be graphics to it, which, you know, could potentially help you out, but we're just going to go ahead and read through this here because um, I have some background music to kind of keep my headset going. Um, so here we go. Um, do go through this video, okay? Because the visual and audio should help enhance your learning experience, or at least one would think. So, um, okay, but a video transcript. An important part of most processes is the timeliness of the work. Use service levels, also known as service level agreements, or SLAs, to ensure work is completed within expected time intervals. Service levels use milestones to indicate the expected turnaround times for the assignment or the overall case on which they are defined. The first milestone is the goal. The goal defines how long the assignment should take and is typically measured from when the assignment started. The next milestone is the deadline. The deadline defines the longest amount of time the assignment may take before it is considered late. The deadline is usually measured from when the assignment was started. For example, consider an assignment in a simple case where someone submits a request, it gets reviewed, then processed. Managers should be able to review a request within 24 hours of getting it, but the assignment allocates up to 36 hours before it is considered late. The expectation is that it can take up to 8 hours to process the request, but never more than 2 days. At each milestone, you can adjust the assignment's urgency. The urgency is typically a value from 10 to 100. The higher the value, the higher the assignment's urgency. For example, consider the review assignment and how the urgency changes might appear along a timeline. A new request is available for review. As soon as the review step starts, the assignment begins and the service level clock starts ticking. At the start of every assignment, the urgency is set to the default value, typically 10. You can increase you could increase the urgency immediately when the service level clock starts, but in this example, the urgency value for the review assignment is 10. Then time passes. The goal for the assignment is 24 hours. 24 hours elapse, the assignment is incomplete. The urgency increases by a defined value. In this scenario, the increase is 10. So the assignment's urgency value for the review assignment is now 20. The deadline arrives and the assignment is still incomplete. The urgency increases again by adding the defined value. In this scenario, the value is 10. The urgency value of the assignment is now 30. In addition to changing the urgency value, you can also define an action to take to escalate the assignment if any of the milestones are missed. Common escalation actions might include sending notifications to the assignment owner and or their manager or transferring the assignment to another user. Service level intervals. Each service level agreement supports a few intervals of time that standardize how long you have to perform a task or resolve a case. Consider a company's timesheet submission requirements. Employees must submit a timesheet within 2 business days of the work week's end, but no later than 3 business days. In the following image, click the plus icons to learn more about these service level intervals. So, for the start, the service level timing begins at 0 hours as the step, process, stage, or case begins. At the timesheet example, the start is the end of the day Friday, the last day of the work week. Goal. The goal defines the desired assignment length and is typically measured from the start time. The goal interval occurs once. In the timesheet example, the goal is Tuesday, or 2 business days. The deadline defines the time before which the step or case is late. The deadline is also measured from the start time. Deadline interval occurs once. In the timesheet example, the deadline is Wednesday, or 3 business days. Deadline review occurs once. Goal interval occurs once. And most likely the start also occurs once, but it doesn't state as such. So, what's interesting is the fact that they don't have like maybe like sub goals, that you can have on repetition kind of thing. You can kind of increase like, hey, you know, um, take for example the timesheet, right? You could say, okay, well, um, you can do some sub goals here where it's like, hey, 24 hours you have a sub goal of 10. 48 hours you have the goal of 10. Another 24 hours after that, you know, well, actually, they already stated that the deadline, is 24 hours already after that. So, um, but I mean, you can, there doesn't seem to be any like other kind of intervals that you could do right at this moment, which is interesting. But we'll move on. You can configure SLAs on case types, stages, processes, and collect information and approval steps. SLAs are most often applied on a case or step level, but have more points to add. Urgency or escalation actions may be of interest depending on the business case. When you apply SLAs at different levels, you need to consider all SLAs when determining intervals. For example, you configure SLAs on multiple assignments and on the case type. Once you determine the SLA intervals for the case, you can define SLAs on each assignment based on the total time allotted for the case. The more places you apply the service level agreement, the more complex and difficult it is to coordinate the prioritization across cases and case types. In the following image, click the plus icons to learn about the different types of service level agreements in an auto insurance company's quote request case example. Okay, so we're looking at the generation of quotes in an auto insurance. So you have someone coming in saying, "Hey, I have a car. I'd like a quote on the car." And then of course, they take all the information in there, review it, you know, check what's possible, and then they generate, you know, an official quote and email the quote to the customer. So, um, case level service level agreement. With SLAs configured on a case type, the service level timing begins when a case is created or recently reopened and stops when the case is resolved. For example, you configure an SLA with a goal of 60 hours and a deadline of 72 hours. If a prospective customer does not receive a quote within 72 hours, the case is considered late. The case level SLA should be used to define the stage, process, and assignment level SLAs. So I want to address something about this, but um, one of the modules that we dealt with, I talked about this a little bit, and that's why I was kind of confused. Okay, because with the case level service level agreement, you are in a sense putting a time restriction on the staged process and so on and so forth. Okay, so basically saying, hey, if this particular stage or process hasn't been completed, then we're going to increase the urgency. But yet, in the previous one, they didn't, or they stated that you know case types don't have any kind of time restrictions either. So, which is true here, right? Um, I'll go back over that a little bit more later, but I just wanted to kind of point that out as like on, you have case types that have the service level agreements with time settings to them. So process level, service level agreement. This isn't really showing everything here. Hold on a second. Let me. Um, okay, well that didn't really help. Um, it'd be helpful if I could actually see this entire um, title here. I can't seem to expand it here at all. So yeah, okay. Um, Pega, you need to fix this because this is. I mean, I can't even copy this to something else to see if it's what's there. All I can see here is process level, service level, agree, and that's it. What the heck? What the heck is this? Um, you know, they really should fix that. Um, but actually, let me go ahead and. Oh wow, this is a very long section. This is definitely not 10 minutes. What the hell are they talking about? 10 minutes. How much of a speed reader are you? Okay. Be nice if I could just kind of scroll on up. Um, Here, let me take a screenshot of this real quick so that I can refer to it. Oop, hold on. No, 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 stop that. Okay, let's go ahead and save it so that we can address the um, we can go ahead and add it into, as a file here. Okay, I was wondering if it would show my my open files and stuff like that, but no, it doesn't do that. So I'm kind of thankful for that. All right. Um, um, and the screenshot provided, the title is cut off, and there is no way to resize the um, the window or the text box to show the entire title. Um, suggest that it gets um, that word wrap is set for the title, and we can then see what was intended. There you go. Because otherwise, I have no idea what they wanted, what their title was for it. Well, I mean, I see the process level, service level agree. I'm assuming agreement. You know, they could, if they really wanted to, they could just like maybe shorten this to SLA if it's just like, process level. They don't have to go full, you know, they don't have to say, service level agreement completely there. So, with SLAs defined on a process, the service level timing begins when the process is called and ends when the last step of the process completes. For example, you configure an SLA on the review request process with a goal of 24 hours and a deadline of 48 hours. The SLA ensures that underwriters assigned to a specific quote complete both the review request assignment and request approval in 48 hours or less from the quote request submission date. The process level SLA should be used to define the assignment level SLAs. It's a little cold in here, sorry. Um, okay. Um, assignment level, service level, what? Once again, there's no like full title here, so I have no idea what they're trying to, you know, I do, but yet I don't have, if they included like more words after it, like, after assignment level, service level, agreement, I'm assuming, but it's not there, you know, um, maybe they have a full-on sentence there. I don't know. I can't see it, so. Um, with SLAs configured on collect information steps, Service level timing begins when the assignment is created and ends after assignment completion. For example, in the quote request case, you configure an SLA on the review request assignment with a goal of 12 hours and a deadline of 24 hours. The SLA ensures that underwriters review the request within 24 hours of receiving the request, otherwise the assignment is late. Approval level, service level agree. Blank. Okay. With SLAs configured on approval steps, the service level timing begins when the approval is called and ends after approval completion. For example, when a quote request case, you define an SLA on the approval request step with a goal of 12 hours, deadline of 24 hours. SLA ensures that underwriters approve the request within 24 hours of completing the review. And of course, stage level service level agreement. With SLAs defined on a stage, service level timing begins when a case enters a stage and ends when the case leaves the stage. For example, you configure an SLA on the quote creation and presentation stage with a goal of 12 hours and a deadline of 24. The SLA ensures that the quote is generated and the customer receives email notification within 24 hours of quote approval. Okay, so work prioritization. In Pega platform, work is prioritized based on urgency. Depending on your business requirements, you can prioritize work based on deadlines. Urgency-based prioritization. Urg Urgency is a numeric value that brings visibility to the unresolved work in your application. There are two primary types of urgency. Case urgency is the priority of the case. For example, if a parent case type for managing hospital patient records, a child case for updating current records may have a higher priority than a child case for transferring previous records. Assignment urgency is the priority of completing an assignment. For example, collecting information on a new patient may have a lower priority than sending the prescription for an existing patient. The initial urgency of the assignment is equal to the case urgency value. By default, the case urgency is 10. You can configure the initial urgency for a case in the Settings tab of the case type. For each interval, you define a value between 1 and 100 by which to increase the urgency. The maximum urgency is 100. The higher the urgency value, the more important it is to address that work item. Consider the urgency values for the timesheet example in the following table. We have time interval start of 0 hours, 0 hours, but an urgency of 10. Goal, time interval 48 hours, increase urgency by 10, so the urgency would be at 20 after the goal. Deadline has 72 hours, increases the urgency by 10 again, so the urgency would be 30 after the deadline. Urgency increases as the assignment advances to the next interval. In Pega Platform applications, assignment urgency indicates assignment priority. The Pega Platform Get Next Work functionality assigns high urgency tasks before low urgency tasks to ensure that assignments finish on time. Get Next Work favors the assignment when the greatest urgency between two or more assignments that users can perform. If you have multiple case types, consider an interaction between the case types when designating SLAs and urgency adjustments to ensure work is properly prioritized. For example, a roadside assistance case instance should have higher priority than a membership update case instance. Deadline-based prioritization. Many organizations find it beneficial to make SLAs deadline-focused rather than urgency-focused. For some case types, time-based deadlines rather than urgency deadlines provide the most important information you need to prioritize work. For example, multiple mortgage loan case types can be prioritized solely based on when they are submitted. Use a combination of well-crafted SLAs and a couple of urgency values where appropriate. If you have multiple cases or assignments with the same deadline, use urgency to decide which object to work on first. Consider a software license purchasing case type. Multiple case instances are created at different times. A customer service representative works on multiple assignments for each case, while the purchasing manager roles have one assignment for each case. In the following image, click the plus icons to learn how the deadline-based assignment prioritization works with the 3 case instances with different creation times. So we're looking at case 1. The first step of case 1 is created first and has the highest priority. The CSR should work on this assignment first. The CSR should work on the first step of case 2 before working on the fourth step of case 1. Purchasing manager. The purchasing and manager roles should always work on the assignment that is closest to its deadline. The CSI should work on the first step of case 2 before working on the first step of case 3. The CSR should work on the first step of case 3 before working on the first step of either case 1 or case 2. So, here's that fourth step. So they're basically saying, hey, you should be working on this one first before you work on that step there or that step there. Or basically everything in, step 3 here and step 4 there or step 4 there, the step 1 should be handled first. So after you get done with the manager step 1, the manager step 3 here, because it, has a higher priority than the CSR step 1. But at the same time, these are different personas, different roles. So you might not need, CSR, doesn't necessarily need to worry about the manager step 3, but they might need to worry about the purchasing of, on step 2 there, for example. And then they can work on the step 1 there, that kind of thing. So it all depends on, uh, um, who works on what in there. I believe they mentioned the fact that purchasing and manager have their own like roles, while the purchasing and manager roles have one assignment for each case. So, um, so manager and purchasing would have their own separate rules. So the CSR wouldn't necessarily need to worry about these step 2s or step 3s. They just need to worry about their step 1s and step 4s. So, escalation actions. Escalation actions are actions that your application takes to facilitate faster resolution times based on specified service level agreement. You can configure escalation actions on service level agreements to notify the assignee, the manager, and the participants, reassign the task, resolve the case as the goals or deadlines occur. So if something happens like maybe the customer wants to refund or something like that. The CSR might not necessarily be able to do that. They need to escalate it up to, say, like the manager to handle, a refund that the customer had already purchased. So, I think I might need to actually give myself a jacket because I'm just cold all over. Yeah. Okay. Uh, so check your knowledge with the following interaction. Based on the following image of the case lifecycle, drag one of the service level agreements or actions to one of the matching requirements. So we're basically putting these in here. So we don't need to deal with anything there. So um, okay, so warranty review requests are processed and resolved within 3 days, but no later than 4 days. Manager receives an email if customer is not contacted in 1 day, and contact customer 1 day from approval. So, um, case type goal 3 days, deadline 4 days. Step escalation action, and step goal 1 day. That's what I would go for. Mainly because of the common um, similarity of the days there. So you see the resolved within 3 days, but no later than 4 days. Well, goal of 3 days, deadline 4 days. So um, you have contact customer 1 day, step goal 1 day. Similar. Um, and then of course you see the step escalation. Well, manager receives an email, that's an escalation. So that's what I'm doing there. So I'm assuming that this is going to be right. Yeah. All right. There is a lot of information that get got thrown at you in this. Um, in some ways, I'd almost say they probably should like break this apart into like maybe two different modules because there's quite a bit here, but um, I don't know. We'll move on and we'll see where to go from there. Alright. Additional tasks for setting goals and deadlines. The following related tasks are not covered in the challenge that accompanies this module. Please review this content, which identifies different use cases and prescribes procedures for completing these additional tasks. These tasks are in scope for certification. Your exam may include questions on these tasks. Setting goals and deadlines for case resolution. Encourage customer service representatives to resolve cases on time and enforce your service level agreements by setting goals and deadlines for a case type. As a result, you save time and resources because you avoid missing deadlines. SLA measurement starts when the case starts and ends when the case finishes. For example, if a CSR of an insurance claim request does not resolve the request within a week, the urgency of this case rises and the manager of the CSR receives a notification. For relevant training materials, see the completing work on time module on Pega Academy. Which we're already in. Huh? um, for relevant training materials, see itself on Pega Academy. What are you talking about here? What the, what? Um, I mean, I can understand if they were like referencing like the challenge, as they mentioned before, the challenge that accompanies this module, but they're referencing itself as training materials. Huh? Why? Whatever. Okay. We move on. In the navigation pane of App Studio, click Case Types and click the case type that you want to open. On the Settings tab, click Goal and Deadline. Okay, so a lot of these steps we're probably going to want to do in the challenge. So we're going to need to kind of come back to this and try to see, like, if these are not covered in a challenge, then we're going to need to do it ourselves. We did it before, so we're going to need to kind of come back to this later to see if we can get it. See, if this hasn't been covered in the challenge, then we'll cover it. But to be honest, going through all these steps right now without having an instance open um, might be kind of difficult to like fully understand. So I'm in I'm of the opinion that I should just go ahead and skip this for now. We'll come back to this once we get to the challenge. Um, pretty much same for this as well. Um, it looks like they have a lot of details here that um, they're saying that's not covered in a challenge. I don't know why. You know, if they're giving us steps on things that could be covered in a challenge, why not include them? I don't know. Um, it just seems to me like you could add these in the challenge as like maybe um, or do it this way like you have the challenge and then you have like the extra you have like maybe some extra credit for the challenge or something like that and put these in there. Okay. There's really no need for you to put these in this module um, if you're not gonna do an instance for it. This is just kind of um, this is just kind of confusing otherwise, right? So um, at runtime, your application detects when the goal and deadline are not met. Adjust the urgency of the assignment. See how much time you have left to complete the case. Refer to the header of the form. Building case types. What's that referring to? Still loading. Okay. Okay, so once again, they're referring to um, some extra documentation that it's like, why are you putting this extra documentation elsewhere and not in your main mission or your main module concerning these particular topics? You know, I'm gonna open up these two links here. Okay, it looks like there's even more here that we could kind of go over. Okay, here's even more as well. Um, I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole of just clicking on all these links and like to just um try to cover all the topics that they're pointing to, but um I don't know. I mean, it's helpful to get, to make sure that you understand everything in these, but at the same time, um, it's I feel as though Pega is um, like if they're referencing these, you know, then why not try to integrate it within the modules that you've already constructed in the first place? Why have these extra pages here talking about, these topics and not try to integrate, you know, what what you're saying here in the modules, missions, topics that you've already covered, you know. Um, Increase your modules, increase your topics or something like that. Include all these, you know, like compare, you know, um, do you have a case management in your mission um, for the system architect? If you don't, then add it in, you know, um, because clearly you're adding, you're referencing them, you know, in you know in one of your topics, make it a module, you know. Now, obviously, this requires a rewrite from them, but still, it's like, why are you doing these extra topics here and not integrating it within your mission and mission topics? You shouldn't need these extra links here. At least that's what I feel anyway. Once again, for relevant training materials, see itself module on Pega Academy. It's like, okay. Um, I don't know if I really want to try to go down that rabbit hole of all these links. That's it feels to me like it's a Wikipedia page for all the links that you could potentially go down and just get lost in all the topics and links and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I get it, here under the case management because they have a lot of um, other topics associated with case management. Makes sense, right? But I mean, you know, if you're not doing it in your mission, or missions, then you're, I feel like, you're messing up there, Pega. You need to readjust yourselves here because uh, this looks sloppy. You know, you know, put your articles in the mission, in the modules and the topics. Don't have separate links that you link to. You know, shouldn't need to worry about that. I mean, I can understand like, hey, you want to reference like older versions of the module, sure. Even though technically a person can just go, hey, I want to see what, 8.5 has. Interesting that They don't have anything more than 8.5 though. You know, like like I mentioned before, they did, they were, um, I've had certifications um, uh, where topics are, I've had like keywords, referenced, you know, from like version 7. But then again, this particular module might not have been completed prior to 8.5. So don't know. But um, we're going to um, we're going to close down these. I don't really have that much of an interest in going through these extra links. Right now, I may go back to them later, like if my uh, if my setting feels like it still hasn't caught on with uh, setting goals and deadlines and so on and so forth, then I may need to take the time to go through these particular topics a little bit more. I mean, that's you know, obviously, something that I may need to do. If like you are watching on YouTube and you feel like one of these topics is fantastic for like future learning, let me know. Put it in a comment or, let me know in the chat message like right now if you're watching me right now on Twitch. Um, you know, if you feel like, hey, you really want to stay setting service level agreements for stages, processes, and steps or something like that, because it's a fantastic article or something like that, then let me know. Um, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the module quiz because, um, like I said, this will have to be covered in the challenge, and I'll try to, you know, either um, make sure that I covered it in the challenge, or like remind me if I forget about them. You know, um, I'll try to remember it for when we do get to the challenge, which I mean should technically be tomorrow. So we'll see. Okay, let's do the module quiz. There's not much here for completing work on time, so I don't suspect there's going to be a ton of questions. Yeah, only 3 questions. So drag the phrase from the bottom that best completes the sentence. The primary purpose of a service level agreement is to help ensure timely completion of work. Sure. Automatically change assignment status? No. Assign cases to the appropriate caseworker. I I mean it does that, but that's not the primary purpose. So no. Generate service level reports? No. So it's the help ensure timely completion work. Yep. There we go. You know, you can assign cases to a caseworker, although they should say appropriate persona, not caseworker here. Once again, I feel like the caseworker is um, like a Pega 7 keyword, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Please let me know. If you're watching, like I said, if you're watching this on Twitch right now or in the YouTube video, if caseworker is a Pega 7 keyword, then let me know. Um, if that's supposed to be like you know a persona or whatnot, let me know. But that's um, they really should keep with their keywords. You know, uh, you know, especially in their module quizzes. All right, going on. The goal milestone in a service level agreement defines that amount of time in which case or step should be completed. Okay. That's true. Um, allowed before an assignment is considered overdue. That can also be true. Well, no, wait. Hmm. Deadline is when something is considered overdue, not necessarily the goal. So, in which case, a step must be completed. Allowed for users to advance to the next stage. No, that's not it. Don't think that's it. Um, the wording here is um, what once again, the wording that Pega uses in their certifications it can be very precise in some regards, even though, like I said, they use older keywords sometimes. It's like, um, but notice how it's like should or must. Um, must is a very strong word. Um, but at the same time, sometimes you might have a case or a step that has a little bit more complexity to it or something like that. So I'm kind of leaning more towards should on this, but I don't know if they're going to consider that correct. They do. Okay. Okay, my alarm. Um, so um, basically they're basically saying, hey, um, you should be able to complete this case or step by this time. You know, should be able to. The fact that they're saying must is more of along the lines of very, um, they're not they're not necessarily taking urgency into consideration with that kind of wording because um, they're basically saying, hey, this has to be, this must be done by this time. That's like it's very rigid, and that kind of goes against the urgency. Urgency allows for an increase in urgency to try to get, the cases and the steps resolved. So, um, but it allows for a little bit more flexibility to it. So just bear that in mind that it allows for more flexibility and not necessarily rigid. So, word choice. All right. A service level agreement for an assignment describes the following behavior. Goal, 8 hours and an increased urgency by 10. Deadline, 24 hours and an increased urgency by 20. If the initial case urgency is 10, what is the assignment urgency 26 hours after the case reaches the assignment? So, um, so you start off with 10, 8 hours pass. We're already 8 hours in 26, so that's 18 hours there. Um, we have, we're 18 hours past our goal, right? But that's under the 24 hours. So, um, so we had an increase of 10 for the goal because we passed it. So our urgency should be at 20, but it didn't pass the deadline. So it shouldn't be 20, so it shouldn't be 40. But I was wrong apparently. Twenty is the urgency when the goal interval ends 8 hours after the case reaches assignment. Well, that's correct. I understand that. But we didn't hit the deadline though. So it shouldn't be 40. But they still consider it as 40. Interesting. Let me go ahead and go back through this here real quick. Okay, they started off with this question automatically. Okay. Let me select 40 and see what our feedback is on this. Okay, assignment urgency begins at 10, right? The urgency increases to 20 when the goal interval ends 8 hours after the case reaches the assignment, which is correct. I mean, you know, 8 hours after, you know, you had 26 hours, right? So that'll pump, that'll bump um, you know, that would bump the assignment, or that'll bump this down to 18 hours, right? The urgency increases to 40 when the deadline interval ends 24 hours after the case reaches the assignment. The urgency does not increase again. But here's the thing, it's um, okay, so here's where I'm getting caught up with. Um, I thought that the oh no, it doesn't do it that way. I forgot. So um, okay, let me return back to module. We're gonna go ahead and leave the module quiz. We passed that. So let me go back to the service level agreement. Um, Notice here, you have um, the 0 hours when it starts. You have the 48 hours of the goal, and you have the 72 hours. The 72 hours is based off the start hours here. So when you pass 72 hours from the start, it adds in that 10. Okay, so let's go back to that module here. Um, Come on, start it, please. Okay, the fact that it says what the assignment urgency 26 hours after the case reaches the assignment. So in other words, we have had 26 hours total from the start. You have the start, you have the goal, and you had 26 hours after that. So it passed the 8 hours, so it hit the goal, so you add the 10, right? But for 26 hours, it passed the 24-hour deadline, so it added the 20 for the deadline. So, so you basically have, an extra 2 hours after that deadline, is current, where it currently was. Okay, that's why you have the 40 there. Um, Now, I think there's a way to get an increase of hours even after the deadline. Like like every hour after, you can increase the amount after that or something like that. You can basically set it up so the urgency gets increased, you know, at a like intervals after, past the deadline. Um, I believe you can set that up. Don't quote me on that though. We haven't gotten there, nor did they really discuss that very much, if at all. So if I was to pick like 60 here, they were like, the urgency is not possible with the defined SLA. Yeah, with the defined SLA, it might be possible with a different SLA in that it increases the urgency past the deadline or something like that. But but yeah, you want the 40 there. So um, just want to make sure um, getting these correct again. All right. So that's it. We're done with this particular module. Um, uh, I really feel like this particular topic should have been like handled in the challenge. I also feel like the additional links that they included in this particular topic could have been um, parsed through other missions or other modules and like in in the overall mission. Having links to other web pages and stuff like that is kind of I feel is a disservice because if this mission is supposed to train you to get to a point where you have the possibility of taking the certification, then you need to give your students everything that you possibly can. So um, you know, having links to other things that might be outside of the scope, or outside of the scope of what the system architect currently gives, but yet it's still required on the certification means that you're shortchanging your students in a, in a fashion. So so it just doesn't really I don't really agree with that all that much. So all right. So we are done with that particular module. Um, let's see. Let me make sure that I've completed it. Yeah. So the next one is going to be enforcing service level agreements. Once again, we're gonna not only do this challenge, but we're gonna take the information given in this module here to look through as well. So look forward to that tomorrow. Um, we'll, we're gonna just continue to proceed through all these modules, all these challenges to get to the mission test, and we'll see what we can do here. It's gonna be fairly lengthy test here, as you can see, 40 minutes. Um, they also have a really extensive mission exercise here, 2 hours. So I doubt that I'm going to be able to finish that within the 2 hours that they have. Um, or I may, depending on how they set it up, um, I may need to, um, you know, ideally, I'll see about trying to break it up into, multiple 1 hour videos. But if it's something like a challenge, for example, that requires an instance, I may need to do an extended video on that. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But obviously, we got a ways to go. So, but I want to thank everybody for joining me for this Pega study session. Um, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to like and subscribe. For the journey in our Pega certification. Um, for the system architect. Um, you can also join in for the business architect as well. The low-code app builder is, a requirement for the business architect, um, mission. So, um, so you're gonna be just, working right alongside with me on this. So, um, so far we've been kind of slow overall um, in our process here. If you feel like you can do it faster, then be my guest. Go right ahead. I mean, don't let me slow you down. You're welcome to come on back. I'll be putting these up on a playlist for you. You know, so if there's ever a topic that you feel like you might be struggling with, feel free to join me on that particular topic when I get there. Um, if you feel like um, I'm missing or I'm not really grasping something very well, which I mean it's totally possible here. Um, then let me know. You know, please. Uh, you know, um, you know, I'm. If someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, no, you need to adjust your thinking on this or something along those lines," you know, uh, if you have criticism, you know, then make sure that it's constructive. Let me know why. Um, you know, I would be, I want to be that appreciative of people that, might come up into my videos and say, hey, you're being absolutely stupid, stop, or something like that. You know, that does nothing for me. That does nothing for you for writing it, you know. So, you know, so yeah. Um, but that's where we're going to go ahead and end it for today. Um, no chatters, but that's okay. I welcome anybody that wants to chat with me during this study session. If you feel like there might be something that you're not really understanding very well on a particular topic, I don't mind, like, really, like maybe trying to dive a little bit deeper into it, or try to explain it better, maybe, if I can. Um, like I said, I'm not a trainer, so my knowledge is somewhat limited. So, um, but yeah, just um, but like I said, you're welcome to join me in this, you know, converse with me about it. Um, you know, and we'll talk on that. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our just chatting. So for those of you that are watching on YouTube, thank you for joining me on this, and I will see you in the next video. I'm going to stop the recording now.